Hello and thanks for joining me. In today's video I'd like to take you through some of the main features of my Radial Arm Saw's workstation. Some time ago I uploaded a video on creating a downdraft style dust collection system for the Radial Arm Saw. If you haven't seen that, I will put a link at the end of the video so that you could possibly go back and watch it. On that video somebody commented, a guy called Scott, and he asked about the tracks that are in the table and he was keen to see how I use those tracks and how I use the workstation in general. So in today's video, that's what I want to walk you through. I also maybe want to talk to you about some possible upgrades in the future. And as always, I'm keen to hear your comments below on what you think, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, what I could do, what you would take away, anything you like. Always open for a discussion. While we're here, I'd like to ask you if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel. That really helps me out in getting my videos out there. It also gives me the motivation I need to make the next one. Let's crack on. The workbench itself is constructed from MDF. The legs are MDF, the framework's MDF, and the sacrificial top's MDF. I did that for cheapness. I did have a slight concern about moisture. I haven't had any issues thus far. If I do, I will change it to something more robust. For the time being, I'm happy with it. The table work area, it's 4.3 meters from this side to this side, so that's plenty big for the things that I kind of do. I made the height 102 centimeters to the top, and this means I'm not hunched over doing what I do when I'm using the saw itself. I'm at a good standing height to operate it. It's comfortable for me. I built it specifically for me, so that's why it's that height. As I'd mentioned previously, I've done a video already on the dust collection. This is still dust collection Mark 1. I haven't changed anything since that video, although I do plan on it. Somebody in the comments had mentioned possibly making a grid, possibly even 3D printed, a plastic grid that could be removable and replaced. I thought that was a good idea, something that I'm definitely looking into. Again, if you haven't seen that video, there will be a link at the end of this video so that you can go and watch it and then you can see how I made this system, this downdraft system for the Radial Arm Saw. I am still impressed with how well it works, and it is still hooked up to my shop vac, even though I do have a slightly bigger dust collection device now, although none of the pipework is built for that, so that's a job for another day. The primary feature of this workbench is obviously the Radial Arm Saw. And the Radial Arm Saw is a great tool, but it needs a great fence to go with it. I made the fence by, again, using MDF. When I put them together, I slightly rounded off the bottom edge here. I can show you in another picture, slightly better here. And that is just so any dust that is created and gets blasted under there, it's not going to affect when I want to place something else against it, like this. Whereas if I had a 90-degree angle on there without that kind of a dust relief, let's call it, as dust builds up, you push it on and you're not sitting square and true to your fence anymore, sometimes even by just a little bit, but sometimes that can make all the difference. You can see I have opted for the Craig Jig track stop system. It's absolutely fantastic. Really love it. It's very usable, really fast, repeatable cuts. Couldn't really ask for more. There was a long time when I was just using stock blocks that I would use little clamps to clamp them onto the fence that I had, but you know, this much better. Obviously, it's designed for that. So while we're talking about the fence, let's talk about its biggest party trick. Now, to have an accurate fence, generally people screw these down so that when they sit 90 degrees to the blade, they stay 90 degrees to the blade and you don't ever really have to worry about it. I need it sometimes to be able to work on a bigger space. So once I've pushed the fence all the way back to the end of these tracks, I've got more room to work with. 66 centimeters I've got here. And both tracks can move all the way back. Now it used to be that when it came time to lining everything up again, I would have to pull it down to somewhere where I thought was about right. I'd then need a multitude of tools and aligning devices to basically get everything lined back up again and then tighten them all down. That's not terrible, but it's all time consuming. I wanted a quicker and easier way to get a repeatable zero on my track, let's say. So that's where these little guys came in handy with. I made these, I decided to make them so they're permanently attached. It's just on a 28mm dowel, which is glued onto the fence itself. It has a 90-degree stop, so that I know when I push him around like this, he's exactly parallel to the blade. He's got his 90 degrees. Same with this one, because again, when I set the exact size that I wanted, it was all done while everything was 90 degrees. So if I didn't have these little stops on and I just swung them into position and they were kinda ish, you know, that's 90 degrees ish, I'm not going to get that perfect accuracy that I was looking for. So as long as I know that they're pushed against them, those guys are at 90 degrees to this, parallel to the blade, and I just shuffle them back until they touch the wall there. I am happy with that. And then I tighten down these into the track. I've got 4 of them. There we go. All nice and tight. And that is what I would call my fence at its zero position. Now that I've pushed that fence back into its zero position, it's probably good practice to check that it lines up with the other fence. I know that it's not strictly necessary because I've done this a few times now, you know, I've used it a lot, but for the purpose of the video I would demonstrate on how I would check that. And I've got a nice piece of aluminium which I would just slide across, and he would slide past to the other fence and not catch on it, but I know that he's resting up against it, which means the two fences are aligned. The fence on the right hadn't moved, and I had moved the fence on the left there, so that has all gone back perfectly. So on the right hand side of the radial arm saw, we've got my router station, and just like on the left hand side, it's set up the same, where I've got my zero stops which can be folded away quite nicely, and then everything can be pushed back to give me plenty of clearance to use the router itself. I have sometimes pulled this whole thing forward and used this as a fence. There is one slight little downside, and something I may change later, is obviously there's no cutout here like what you would have in an actual router fence, i.e. the one that comes with the table. Okay. The problem here is if I start cutting out, then I'm going to be left with a cutout that is always there, and it could affect my work when I'm using the radial arm saw sliding back and forward. I have thought about maybe odd bits of aluminium profile on here that somehow join to this. Any ideas or suggestions, please comment below. I'd love to hear them. Always open for suggestions. So yeah, again, that is basically the same as the other side. When I needed to go back to zero and marry up to my radial arm saw, these swing out to their 90-degree positions. Out we go with them handy little stop blocks. The whole thing moves backwards, and there we go. When he's like that and then tightened up, I know that it's all going to be nice and square. So that is the main feature of these tracks. That's what they are designed for. Now obviously they do other things. They can hold work pieces in when you've got the correct clamps and stuff like that. To be honest, I've never actually used them for that, but they could be used for that. I suppose that is about it for the top side of the table. The underside of the table's an absolute mess, so maybe that's for another day. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video on my Radial Arm Saw workstation. Again, I am absolutely 100% open to any comments and suggestions in the comment section below. I really would appreciate, again, a like, a good old thumbs up for the video, and if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be absolutely marvellous. I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.